Greetings. My name is Michael Miller. This is a Michael Miller trademark training video out to you because you're watching. Thank you and welcome. It's meant for Michael Miller Pilates licensed affiliates, the Core New Core, and anyone interested in surviving and thriving as a Pilates instructor or student. Just two things today. In regards to teaching Pilates, a quote from this Smithy on Big Valley, an old TV show, when he shows someone how to do something and he says, it ain't hard. He says, it ain't hard to do. It just takes knowing how. It ain't hard to do. It just takes knowing how. And that is my message to you and all of the intricacies and complexities and wonder and unknowableness and mysticalness of Pilates. Being a Pilates instructor, I don't think is hard. It just takes knowing how. And all of this is from the MMP point of view because there's a world of other view out there. And then number two, the sanctuary of the spotlight. And by that I mean I have really only been in a spotlight once that I can think of, and it was to do a presentation of Pilates at the Dairy Arts Center. And when the spotlight is in your face, you can't see the audience. And that's my point, is that when the spotlight is in your face, you don't see who's in the audience, and you don't, to me it would seem, aren't distracted by the viewers, the audience. And yet, throughout all of this, especially more so on Facebook than here on YouTube, you see your audience at least go by or show up before they go. Just the fact that in some way they were watching and in the audience makes so much of the next broadcast, and everyone really, a matter of speaking to what I hope to be you. When I see you in the audience, what would I say to you? And that is always the case, because what I want to say is what matters the most to me about this broadcast, communicating to you the two things of asserted importance, which is the existence of CT and an awareness of MMP. By existence of CT, I mean core new tension as being CT, and by the existence of it meaning the presumption that yes, this is the way the body works biomechanically, know it or not, like it or not, somebody else telling you to believe it or not, you can find it experientially in your own sensation, and that is quintessentially the quintessence of MMP in a way, is that it's sensational, and that an experience is at the heart of it. And so what's the experience? And that's where you take up, right? You know this. The experience is complete coordination of body, mind, and spirit. Joe's definition of this method. And maybe that's not what Joe meant. Who knows? But what MMP makes of that is being, thinking, and observing And that's what I hope you understand or are able to distinguish from whatever else is made of Pilates, for whatever reason. MMP comes from three things straight from Joe. Adds an identification of core new tension. See, it's an identification. I didn't create it. I didn't make it up. It's just me pointing to that and saying that's how the body moves through space. And to the extent that there's quality engagement of core new tension, it approaches the ideal in terms of being as uniformly engaged as you can possibly be. And again, that's MMP, but that's what I'm telling you, and that's what I believe in. Because I have a sense of it literally, and an understanding of it in my thinking. So standing in that spotlight hides you from me, and yet it's such an honor and a privilege that you ever watch, that you see anything of me, whether I know you or not, but especially if I know you. If we've shared reality together, because to some extent I think the electrons of our existence are always entwined, and that has quantum implications to it. It isn't hard to do. You just have to know how. And the how, when it comes to being a Pilates instructor, is knowing that a human being has capacities in their being, thinking, and observing. And as an instructor, you seek to help them coordinate those capacities. And yet, see, a whole world of Pilates, a whole part of the Pilates culture is the complete coordination of body, mind, more thinking. As though the thinking of it can wrap its arms around the subject or the word or whatever it is Pilates is, that there can be a thinking authority to it that is at a transcendent level or a paramount level. At the peak of the pyramid, thinking exists in partnership with being and observing. I was going to say listening. Being and observing. And that's what MMP has to offer you, is this point of view of being, thinking, and observing. And then it isn't all the knowing involved in how to cross the gap and take Pilates toward an issue. Physical therapy. Okay? And all the thinking that goes into how you do that doesn't make thinking the issue if we're still talking about Pilates. You follow me? I'm very lucky to have traveled and gotten to meet you. Blessed and honored and forever changed and affected by you and you and you. What matters to me in this broadcast is that you take control of the message that's being broadcast and use it to survive as a Pilates instructor, and to do so very well. And evidently nobody wants to or thinks they need to form a business relationship with the trademark. someday that will be obviously apparent. And when someone next to you starts flying the flag of Cornu or claims themselves to be a licensed affiliate, it becomes a matter of bragging rights about timing and how long and all of that. That isn't of a matter now, it seems, in my world of my mark and my profession. What matters to me that I would comment to you is I was surprised when I happened in going through Facebook, I happened to see my broadcast from yesterday where I was talking about moving in a line, like maintaining a line as you move through space, whether that line is straight or curved. And if it's curved, then to what extent is the curve ideal, and based on what is it ideal? And I felt in seeing the recording and knowing that I had completed the whole thing, even in my inadequacies of communication and clarity, I was happy that the recording came out as well as it did, and that what I was saying seemed to make enough sense to me that there might be some glimmer of hope that it would make sense to someone listening to it for the first time, as well as someone who may have heard it all before and yet was seeking to dive into owning it at that much more depth because of being so familiar with what I was trying to explain. What was I trying to explain? That Cornu tension throughout your body allows you to maintain a curve through space better than not being, better than not. So locked out joints have a hard time supporting a smooth curve throughout the rest of the structure or in the rest of the structure. You know, if not on YouTube, and I think I said more on YouTube than I did on Facebook, but it made me comforted to see that the recording is at least being made, and that the point I'm making is at least I'm making it. Whether or not it makes sense to anybody else, I'm happy that I'm coming close to making it the way I want to, and that's all you could ever do. That's like having your eyes in the spotlight to where you don't see your audience. Which is what a lot I think about, okay, and then being an instructor involves is even if your student is the audience, you still stand in the spotlight of responding to the movement that the student is making and participating in the corrective feedback loop that is inherent in pursuit of the performance. Follow that? So in one word, Pilates is exercise. In two words, it's corrective exercise. And as an instructor, I'm there, in my point of view, to empower a person to create and engage in that corrective feedback loop on their own. And yet there's many a slip between the cup and the lip, and there can be a lot of distance and time as well. Because Pilates works and Pilates takes time to get to where you can do that. But recognizing that you participate in that corrective feedback loop to the point where they can coordinate their being, thinking, and observing on their own. Now, how to do different exercises, or how to do them better, or what you can contribute from the outside into that corrective loop is formidable. That's formidable, but in a French interpretation. Okay? There's only a few people I usually make sense with, but when I make sense with them, or they, yeah. Maybe I'm just biased because I like the people that seem to appreciate what I'm talking about, but the people that appreciate what I'm talking about are such a proud group of people to be a part of. And therein is the future culture of Cornu and MMP. The whole notion that Pilates could be explained is demeaning to how sacred it can be, or it already is. How can you explain that which is sacred? And yet, to be a Pilates instructor, I think it ain't hard to do. It just takes knowing how. And for whatever else you learn about teaching Pilates from the thousands of other points of view, this point of view, in its nature, is easy to reject and ignore and dismiss and think beneath the culture as it exists already. And if the culture that exists already could go on existing the way it exists with the history that it's had, that might be okay and normal. But in the paradigm shift that we're caught up in, due to the popularity of this word, and all of the interest and passion and sacredness and money that is involved, the MMP point of view cuts both ways. And the first way it cuts is as an abomination that you could ever reduce whatever Pilates is to a theory of an ideal, because it's so much more than that. And the subjectivity of what it is that is more than that intrinsically could never indulge in or entertain something that goes beyond that culture, that way of looking at things. And so I've said it before and I'll say it again, just so that you know where my mind's at, and if it's all delusional, that's fine. I hope it's a consistent presentation of the delusion. And that is that I am the Copernicus, Einstein, Bruce Lee of Pilates. Because Copernicus, Bruce Lee, and Einstein took their fields of study someplace new. Like a paradigm shift occurred. A new way of looking at things. Like that computer science guy says, a new perspective is worth 80 IQ points. He's a computer scientist. A new perspective is worth 80 IQ points. And what I'm suggesting is that when you take this gondola ride up and take a look around at the point of view of biomechanics in the body, of core tension, and the point of view, just one point of view, see, a key difference between the two point of views. Well, they're both mine, so that makes them similarities. But the point of view of core nutention is assertion of a fact that that's how biomechanics work in the body. That's a biomechanical fact in the body, core nutention. The oppositional rotation between axes. So if you even if you want to dismiss everything I know and you want to mock me, if you mock me by knowing the accurate four-word definition of core nutention, someday you may discover the sensation in your own body and lend credence to the idea, meaning the thinking of it, because of your ability to observe the sensation of it in your body. In any regard. Pilates, the MMP point of view takes away your ability to make up whatever you want about Pilates. It takes away make-believe Pilates. And that's the bad news and the good news. See, there's the kick. It's sweet and sour. The bad news is the days of Pilates being governed by an entrenched aristocracy, you might say, are all but over already, because big money is now in the scene. And what used to be a lineage now is literally a franchise, a brand, just like I've called my brand a brand. And one of the things that will influence how that word is lit up or explained or whatever, right, is whatever makes the most money within the capitalistic system. Now, to a point, and its malleability to make it whatever you want, to make believe Pilates is whatever you want, to maximize the financial gain, is a fine thing. And I say that because if Pilates really has an essence of its own, then especially the big money will want to represent that essence in whatever way they add to it or distort it. They will at least acknowledge that which is obvious to everyone. Or coming that way. So eventually nothing will change. There will always be the aristocracy in our history and who we are based on who we met and who we studied with. And that's part of the tapestry in the Pilates culture. And within that culture, I've woven a thread, hopefully a consistent one, of a point of view that is ideal in nature. And that's literally in nature. Pilates is a reaction to reality. In an attempt to get ready for whatever comes up. See, that's the deal. Making effort now, conditioning now, being in a routine in order to maximize the advantage of the unexpected. And that's called survival. Life can't live forever. None of us gets out alive, but being pain-free, everlasting youth is Joe's signature sometimes on things. And what a great thing to wish for anyone. And to me, that would mean pain-free all the way up until you cease to be. Life can't live forever. Read between the lines and see behind the curtain. Add 2 and 2 after you've evaluated points of view. See, If you're just taking this point of view and putting it along with everybody else's, you rob yourself of seeing it more accurately in its own character. And you can play the naive knave in court, but when it comes to standing in the moment with the spotlight in your eyes, being an instructor, not just teaching, but being an instructor, see, I don't even know any other target. I'll ask that in Facebook maybe. I don't even know any other target. I wouldn't even know what to aim for. I wouldn't even know how to approach Pilates other than through the ideal in which it exists. And then apply it and modify it and do whatever, you know. Pilates is the Christmas tree. And whatever ornamentation you put on it is extra. It's other than the tree itself. Add 2 and 2. Direct your thinking. Geist.